There was information. There was an alleged hit put out right after King Von's death, and wiretaps, and it's still a lot of information to come out. But like you said, if they had enough, why didn't they pick him up before they traveled to California? And if they knew they were going to California to commit this crime, why didn't they also follow the family and stop this case or stop this murder from happening?
Real life. If that shit ain't real life,
It ain't real life. Just ain't real life street stars. You know what time it is. Real life street stars, man. We got a very special situation coming back in regards to just another reaction video. We got attorney Larry Taylor II, the real life lawyer. First and foremost, how's your spirits? How's everything going?
You know what, man? It's always a pleasure to be on this show and talking with you guys. Always proud to see what you guys are doing even when I'm not here. So just keep doing what you're doing. Real Life Productions is, I see big things for you in the future. Hopefully you guys will get a studio where other individuals like yourselves can come and grow in Dallas.
No, thank you so much for that. We actually used to have a studio. A lot of, I don't want to say illegal activities going on, but some illegalities were going on to where we had to go and shut it down. But no, we will do it again, and it will be done right the next time.
We're talking about not just that, but we're talking about movie production.
Yeah. I'm talking about rappers. Rappers on the mind right now.
No. You guys, I'm seeing you guys as the Tyler Perry group for Dallas County and the Dallas area. So I see big things for you guys.
Yeah, I would love a Tyler Perry-esque studio. And again, shout out Tyler Perry, because I just watched Beauty and Black on Netflix. I ran through all the episodes in one night. I'm like, this is, man, he just he just telling the craziest our color people stories. I'm like, I don't know where he pulls it from. Anyway, let's do it like this, man. We like to get your reaction on things that, of course, take place out in the world, and just look at it from a legal standpoint. Again, we ask questions based on criminal law, civil law, and things of that nature. And we just love your expertise. A lot of fans, they just say, hey, we like the well-dressed, well-groomed, well-educated man to come out here and speak. So we got you. We're going to bring you back all the time.
All right. I appreciate that. And like I told the people, as long as they want to see me, I'll come back.
Man, there you go. And with that being said, Larry, I have to get your take on the Durk situation, man. Lil Durk, of course, as people may know, is a famous rapper.
Mm-hmm.
He, of course, has been arrested for murder for hire. And it's funny because, and I'll ask you, when it comes to murder for hire, how often do you see that from a celebrity? How often do they try to pull that card?
It's always in the history of film or media or even music. You've always seen those type things. I mean, we can go back, not as far back, but as short as Tupac and Biggie. Those were both cases that we as partakers in the rap and hip hop industry always felt that there was always something behind that, right? Because both of those crimes didn't involve any immediate beef.
Correct.
Or at least not Biggie's. I mean, I know Tupac had the situation in the casino right before, but other than that, the distance was so far in between what may have happened that we always felt like it was something else behind it. And, now we know.
When you see murder for hire, again, we normally hear from, of course, the Gotti days and the gangster days of a RICO, which is technically hits are put out and they try to get it under a criminal organization of people. Mm-hmm. It's very rare you see a direct murder for hire and a murder get carried out where we're saying, hey, based on information we've collected, this is what the arrest warrant is for. Basically, hiring someone to assassinate somebody.
Correct.
Do you think, and again, I don't know much of the knowledge of the overall case, but do you think that if they have that's what they're going for, was the best thing to go for versus maybe as a gang, OTF is a gang, or allegedly they are, let's say, gang members, if they could prove it, wouldn't it be better to go for like the gang RICO if they were to try to utilize, hey, there's multiple crimes going on here and this is just one of them?
I honestly think that the YSL trial has taught law enforcement, right? Because potential jurors, it's really hard for them to buy into a group of members of a record label, quote unquote, being a gang. So even in the indictment, they talk about them being more of a music affiliation than gang members. Now, they say they are members of gangs, but they don't necessarily tie the two together in blatantly. They don't say that OTF is a gang. So they say that they're a group of individuals who are affiliated with this particular record label, which is smart, which is very smart. Now, once they start really getting into the criminal history, if they can tie them all into the same potential gang association, that might be something that they can come back to. But you always got to remember that the first indictment is not necessarily the last indictment. It's just enough to get people in behind bars, potentially get people to talking, and then other charges can grow from that.
So let's just go into the arrest itself and then we'll work backwards. Federal charges were placed on him. Lil Durk was arrested, from what they say, trying to get on an airplane, a private jet, to go to Italy. Mm-hmm. They said that they had, I guess he tried to throw the police off by trying to book a flight to like Switzerland, Italy, England. There's like 3 different locations outside the country. Just hearing that alone, let's just start with that. Just saying, hey, I'm going to book 3 separate flights and just pick one to go on. What is that? Is that concerning from a defense side? Is that like almost like, look at that, we got him, from a prosecution side? Or is that just, hey, some people just like to book multiple flights and pick where they want to go once they get there?
I mean, it's all of the above, right? So, for example, if I'm booking a flight, let's say, for example, I want to go to Miami, or I want to go to Cabo. I might book a flight on multiple airlines just based on the whole cancellation situation. Or he could have booked those flights based on what opportunities. He could have had a gig in each one of them that was pending, but he needed to book those flights in order to make any of them. And so there's always a potential rationale behind why you would do those type of things. Now, some of you guys are going to say, well, that's not normal. Well, neither is buying a Bentley or buying an airplane. We all don't do that, but there are some people who do. Right. And so we can't say that that's out of the norm when that is in the norm for other people.
How does it work if he did get on that plane? They got him 1 hour before he got on it. If he was on that plane, and again, just from your knowledge of it, what happens once he's on that plane and that plane has left the runway, is in the air? Can they just make a phone call and say, hey, turn that thing around? Or can he get to Italy? And if so, what, people hear words like extradition, like what could happen if he got to Italy and say, man, I'm gonna just cruise around the country, until y'all come get me or something?
Well, it's always a gamble, because until you get through customs, you really technically haven't gotten into that country. And so if they know where he's going, they could have easily had agents posted outside of customs to actually get him or acquire him prior to him going through customs. And then it just depends on the country and where he landed, if they do have extradition. And so if they have extradition, it could have been all for naught. And so you have to look at, and I think one of the countries he was going, or one of the locations he was going to, they have extradition. So I wasn't really understanding that. Sometimes people fly into places just to get to another place.
I see.
And potentially get people off of their trails. But some of the problems that he had was some of those flights had layovers. Yeah. And some of them had layovers in the US. I think one of them had a layover in New York. And so there were several several flights that potentially had layovers where he could have potentially got picked up at that point.
They had wiretaps on him. When you hear that, I guess the other guys got arrested for the actual murder from back in 2022 of Quando Rondo's friend. And let's say he gets word of that. You would assume that with a wiretap, hey, let's move in before anything happens. Like, technically we got enough. Let's keep him here. No more, no surprises. Let's just go grab him. And I think it was a local bounty. It wasn't the feds that picked him up. It was like a local police force grabbed him, kept him in a Florida jail until the feds came and got him, extradited him back to Los Angeles County to face these charges.
Hold on. Just want to make sure I correct you. I thought I heard you say they weren't federal charges. They were federal charges.
They were federal charges.
It was just a local agency that picked them up.
A local agency.
Because sometimes the listeners can be vicious when you make a mistake. So I just want to make sure we were clear on that.
Very much federal charges. It's just the feds weren't the ones that put their hands on them at the time of. And let me just ask, once it came about, just from a law standpoint, immediately, what is your take on it? Just from a law standpoint of you being, whether defense, prosecution, a judge, what is your take on a high-profile rapper gets arrested for murder for hire, and knowing that Lil Durk, knowing just from your history of hearing about King Von, Quando Rondo, all these things have been happening since 2020. What was your take on, like, man, Durk, dang, were you still, like, give me your take, what was going on in your mind when you saw that?
So first of all, as a black man,
yes,
right,
let's start with that.
Who grew up in similar communities, my prayers go out to all the families that lost loved ones. King Von's family, the family of the rapper out of California.
Yes.
Because, and the guy who also died in Atlanta when all of this started. These are unnecessary loss of life. And so we want to make sure that we respect those families. But as far as the criminal investigation goes, I'm a little leery because reading the indictment, it sounds as if I don't really know how seasoned this person or the investigator was on this particular case. And so there were a couple of things throughout, like you said, this happened in 2022, and there was information, there was an alleged hit put out right after King Von's death, and wiretaps, and it's still a lot of information to come out. But like you said, if they had enough, why didn't they pick him up before they traveled to California? And if they knew they were going to California to commit this crime, why didn't they also follow the family and stop this case or stop this murder from happening, right? How many times have we seen, people about to commit an act or a crime and law enforcement swoop in before they actually commit it?
Very true.
So there are a lot of questions, because if that was the case, then that case wasn't that strong. And it really sounds like they really have him on a murder case, right? They have him on the video. They have him getting out of the car. They have him going to an In-N-Out burger after the murder in the same vehicles and without the mask on. So they have their faces. But then the question comes in, is it a murder charge that took place in California? And they're just using the fact that they used funds through credit cards or through some kind of wire transfer to bring in the feds to make it a federal case.
Very true.
We talked about that before.
Correct.
Right? And so, if there wasn't, you almost ask yourself, if it wasn't the situation where they used airlines or, they conspired in Chicago, if they came up with the idea in in California, will we still be looking at these murder or these federal charges, or will we be looking at more state charges?
And I never understand why it goes either federal or state. And what is the purpose of that as far as the federal has more leeway to utilize resources to indict you, or is state like why does it sometimes it go from federal and not just handled by the state? Kind of like the YSL is strictly on state.
So not going all the way back to first year law school, but
keep taking you back.
But anytime that you start using interstate commerce, right? Whether it's roads. So if I kidnap someone in Dallas and then I transport them to Louisiana, I'll cross state lines. Therefore, now the feds are involved. The same way, anytime that you use any of the gateways that federal agencies kind of control, then now you basically put yourself in their preview. So when you use Cash App, Zelle, any of those things to transfer money, you're now entered into the realms of the feds.
Wow. There you go, man. So yeah, try to stay within the state lines, I guess. Don't do no crimes.
There you go. Don't do no crimes. Don't do any crimes.
Let me ask you, because again, we're about to touch on a couple of different things, but let's just touch on the actual incident itself that they're speaking on, which of course a cousin of Quando Rondo, who was involved in the King Von shooting back in 2020, was with Quando Rondo in a black SUV in which, like you said, men came up, of course, opened fire. They say missing their target if we're going off of, allegations. And of course, killing one of Quando Rondo's cousin. The guys fled the scene, kept it at that. And then you see, and again, this is just now they start unsealing things and seeing what they have, is that Durk asked them to, hey guys, don't use my name or don't use your real names.
To book these flights.
Yeah, to book the flights. You see that they have, again, alleged evidence that he booked the rental vehicles for them to get on, purchasing masks with credit cards attached to Durk's name and the OTF family. We were talking off camera a little earlier about how that works when it calls for a murder for hire. If someone just says, hey man, don't use your real names when you go out there. Don't use my name. Just, don't use my name for clout or whatever. Whatever y'all do out there, go do, but just don't use my name. Sometimes when you're in the music industry and you're the breadwinner, you use your company or LLCs and they say, hey, I need to book a rental car. Well, here, use the company credit card. And therefore it's linked back to that person. Is that technically for you, is that a red alarm just because he said, hey, don't use my name? Hey, let me help you guys get this ski mask, or they use the company credit card to get a ski mask, or use a company credit card or even his own credit card to get a rental. Does that alert you like to the left? Like,
Actually, it could be just the opposite. When I first read it, first thing that came to my mind was he trying to prevent this from happening? Hey, man, look, really don't do this, but don't use me. Don't include me in any of this. Don't use my name. Don't book flights under my credit card using your names. Don't do any of that. And so it can work either way. What's going to be real interesting from a criminal defense standpoint, did he have a show? Did he have an appearance out there? Was he coming to see Real Street Starz California?
Come on now.
Right? The California office.
Coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. Was he going out there to see that? And did that just so happen to coincide with what took place? And so that's the thing. When we get these indictments and they go through the preliminary information, they have information, but they have information from either informants who are just feeding them things. And we learn from, the YSL trial. Police officers are fed things sometimes based off of what people think that they want to hear and are not really based on fact or truth.
Does that mean that, of course, what their goal is, hey, based on what we have, we just want to, again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. But based on what we have, and
that's
because
not really true, but go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard the opposite.
Yeah. Everybody's guilty until they can show they didn't do a damn thing.
Right. And that's kind of what happens when they say, hey, no bond. You ain't going nowhere, because they want to basically say, hey, we have this on you. Prove us prove it to us that you're innocent. Let be judged by your peers. When it comes to, and again, they say no question's a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it either way.
Bring it on.
If he had said, hey, I'm going to pay you guys, go out there. If y'all see Quando, Rondo, man, just rough them up a little bit. You know, he ain't say nothing about no, you know, just rough them up a little bit, man. Get down on them folks. And it turns into a murder that happened after, you know, let's say a scuffle. Can that be considered murder for hire? Is that something that someone would go for?
Anytime that you are in the commission of a crime, you're responsible for anything that happens during that commission. So even if one of his people died, murder's still attached to that. And so anytime that you're doing something that has the risk of someone getting injured or killed, and you take that on, you also take on those potential criminal liabilities. And in this case, you know, saying going to rough someone up, you got to ask yourself, how many people have died from just a regular fist fight?
That is true.
You know, you hit someone, they fall back, they hit their head and die.
That's murder.
Manslaughter at least.
Manslaughter at least, yes. And
so you're still responsible for those acts to take place, even if your guys didn't do it.
Okay, that's a little tough right there. So what if, again, hypothetically, if there was no money involved, there was no credit cards bought, but he just basically said, "Hey, man, listen, you know, just being dirt, just being influential. Hey, man, you guys go out there, y'all see that dude, man, y'all need to do something to that boy, man. Just via text message." Does that put him in the line of fire if just that text message exists and something happens that leads to something where like there's no money, I didn't buy nothing, but I just said via text, man, hey man, dude's at a party, you want to do something, man, y'all do something to that boy.
The conspiracy, the potential of that happening is high in the sense that if the conspiracy still was hatched in Chicago and then they went to LA, they're crossing several state lines in order to commit a crime.
Yeah.
I mean, beating someone up is not legal.
Yeah, it's assault.
Right. It's still extremely problematic. And so, you know, one of the things that I'm also questioning, right?
Yeah.
You said murder for hire.
I keep saying murder for hire.
Murder for hire. I'm not exactly sure, but how many of those individuals were not affiliated with that record label? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if they were affiliated with that record label and basically getting paid and getting taken care of anyway,
how do you question the hire?
Is that still murder for hire? Because he put the indictment says he put a bounty out.
Correct. They said there was $1 million bounty.
Right. So
Rondo's head.
So there's a bounty, but no one acted on it but the people who were already under your custody and control. So was there really a bounty?
So the question would be, Lil Durk was, his comments, everyone was requesting that he, quote unquote, slide for Von. Do something in retaliation for King Von. Why aren't you doing something? And they were screaming that for years up until 2022. Now, Von, I mean, with Durk, I don't know if, again, he plays into it, but music he started to kind of lean towards, we already did that, after 2022, interviews he's done. He just did a famous interview with Academics that's kind of making his rounds where Academics asked him, he's tired of seeing the Slide for Von comments. His response was something to the like of, I'm not seeing him anymore. Like, I don't see him as much. And to say things like that online, to insinuate that something may have taken place. What are your thoughts? If if you're called hey, I need to, I need you to lower you up. I need you, Larry. What can you get? What can you get from when you see things like that kind of come to the light of day? What is your take on those things?
Circumstantial, man. I mean, I think a good lawyer will be able to explain those things away to a jury to help them understand, right? If I drop hot coffee on my lap and I jump up and cursing and I'm angry and you're in the room, does that mean I really have the intention to attack you? Right? If you're just going off of what I said in my actions,
Right.
there could be something else behind that. And it's that something else that really determines what's based on that action and what was said. He could literally have meant, hey man, I don't see him as much anymore. He didn't really say why. Unless he said, I took care of that. People know I took care of that. And that's why they're not saying nothing about that anymore. So I don't know why you're saying anything. Unless something like that took place, literally he just made an observation and saying, I don't see him that much anymore.
With that being said, a lot of things can and will be probably considered circumstantial. The one thing that, of course, is not circumstantial is a wiretapping that was worn by one of his guys by the name of OTF Jam. Now, allegedly. We don't know. Yeah, again, we don't know nothing until nothing comes out. So we're going to definitely use allegedly throughout.
And hold on, man. Before we go any further,
please.
the reason why I say allegedly because we've already learned this in the game.
Yes.
Like this isn't a game that somebody gets hurt, we turn it off, and they come back and they're healthy and alive again. So this man who allegedly wore a wire, where's the evidence? Where is his name? Because it's not going to be in the indictment. We don't know if it's conspirator number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever conspirator they said or labeled. But I am going to caution anyone from putting this man's face or likeness or stating that he actually did this, because there still could be people out there that would take action against him, and he's not the person. He didn't wear a wire. I mean, we've seen that before where the media or someone had stated that someone did something and they actually didn't do it, and it ended up costing them their lives or one of their family members' lives. So I would say let's hold off on that. But talking about wearing a wire, let's just say anybody.
Let's say anybody.
Let's say conspirator X.
Well, let's talk about hypothetical.
Okay.
Hypothetically, someone goes to reach out to this young man to say, hey, he's incarcerated time. We need you to get some information and intel on one of your members, Lil Durk. Is that a tactic that you heard of that police would do to let criminals out early to get someone else? Like, is that a thing?
Man, that is a thing every day, all day.
Oh, wow.
That is, think about it. You serving 20. You've been in there 5. People out here rolling around in Bentleys, BMWs, kissing their kids every night. And you saying to yourself, I want to go home. I want to see my mama. I hope my girl still ride with me.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to put on this microphone and go and talk to people and ask them simple questions. Now, I ain't making nobody answer, right? I didn't make him answer the question. If I ask you a question and you answer it in a way that law enforcement can use it, some people might say, well, that's, in their mind, they might say that's on you. And I get, look, we're going to hear the code, right? The code, we talked about that.
Yep.
You know, no one snitches, no one says anything, no one does anything wrong. I mean, not does anything wrong. No one says anything to law enforcement to harm or to have someone else arrested or jailed. It's not the same. When I practiced criminal law several years ago, and sometimes it seems like since this is creeping back to my life, there's always someone willing to talk.
Yeah.
I told the young man once, I said, look, man, I don't represent you. You do what you want to do, right? I'm just here to make sure that whatever you decide to do, I give you the best chance. And so, matter of fact, I didn't end up representing them, but I was friends of the family, and I was kind of just helping their lawyer out. But I told him, I said, look, man, I guarantee you, it's 5 of y'all. First one that talks is going to do the least amount of time. Period. The least amount of time.
There you go.
He said, nah, we tight. Ain't nobody talking. Got a call. Somebody talked. He's arrested. Now he's in jail.
Dang. That's all. Somebody's gonna press. Somebody's gonna fall.
Man, everybody not Hercules, brother.
So when it comes to wiretapping,
right?
I'm just curious, how creative can the federal government get? People were saying that he might have a hat on in the brim of the hat. There's something in the hat. Hey, you got a jacket, you got a hoodie on, you got something in the lining of the hoodie. How creative can wiretap? How creative have they gotten, from your knowledge, as far as someone being able to use a recording device to get information off somebody?
All right, public service announcement.
Let's go.
Watch any of your MI5 movies, Mission Impossible movies. Look at any of the social media sites that advertise the world's smallest camera that you can put anywhere. And then you make the decision on how inventive and how creative they could be. I mean, man, you have people with cameras in their shoes doing nefarious things.
Yeah.
So, and now you talk about the federal government.
They got Ray-Ban glasses that right now you could just buy and just walk around recording people with glasses on, shades.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So you tell me, and that's the general public.
That's the general public.
You talking about the feds? Come on, man. They could be in there. I ain't gonna say, I almost said something, but I was gonna say they could be G.I. Joe right now and be in the room and have some kind of stealth technology and we can't see them. I don't really believe that, but I'm just saying they are the federal government.
Yeah, like you said, everyone stop right now, go to Amazon and just look for the smallest camera. You're gonna get inspired.
Man, come on, man. It's several spy shops in Dallas.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. How does that? Because again, we're just going with allegedly that this guy is wearing a wire for somewhat of what's considered 4 years. All alleged. We're just playing in the world of make believe. Let's just say, for 2018 to 2024. Is that around the time frame that it takes to like that's like what if it goes for 10 years? Doesn't the federal government have to keep they have to keep, what is it called? Not a warrant, but to have funding to keep paying for this for years. Like, y'all got to bring back something. We can't just go 4 years, a guy wearing a wiretap. Now, mind you, I watched The Wire and it looked like this stuff lasted for a while. So I'm just curious, how far can the feds monitor someone and no crime is being committed? Let's just say, like, are we just going to just watch a person for the rest of their life?
Until the treasury is empty. Let me tell you once again, they will follow you until the treasury is empty. And I think our first show, we talked about that. I had a case in which my client 100% did not do it. They didn't do it. And when I went and talked to the agent and to the ADA, they were like, look, man, we done spent too much money. Somebody got to get it.
Yeah. That's how it always be on them crime shows. It's always like, even watching like Power, they're like, man, how long are we gonna follow the guy? You gotta arrest him or something. Like, you do something. And I just want to do the federal government quit? Or do they go until, hey, we're not gonna, this is all not gonna be for naught. We're gonna find something.
Man, the federal government and the people involved in the federal government are no different than you and I, right? If you could get Denzel Washington on this show or someone besides this plain-faced lawyer on here, you would do it.
Yes.
Right? Because it would help the brand. It would promote you as someone who can get an A-list actor on your show. Well, same thing for prosecutors. I can prosecute and lock up a high-profile individual. This dude won a Grammy.
He just won a Grammy. Oh my! Anyway, go.
Right. The song that won't stop playing. It's a great song.
Yeah.
Love it to death. Very inspirational.
Yeah.
And that's why you hate to see this. But something like this, right? Someone who is aspiring, dude just got the keys to the city for his philanthropy.
And just got it taken right back.
Right. And so the fact that you can, what's that? People talk about it all the time. The higher you climb, the more people want to pull you down.
Yes.
And the further you have to fall.
Correct.
They want the same thing, right? They can come in and get, let's throw Rook under the table since he ain't here.
Yeah.
They can come in and get Rook. But I mean, he might make the Dallas Morning News. But if they come in here and get, one of Dallas's favorite artists, then that makes international news.
Yeah. That does. It gets TMZ status.
Right. And now the prosecutor or the in that area, you saw it on Power.
Yeah.
Get him and it's gonna help my career.
So I look at it like kind of like a workman's comp claim, right? They're like, hey, this guy's faking this back injury. Let's follow him around for a little while. Let's follow, and like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how long, 6 months of recording him walking out his house and, doing things where he has to put on the show. Like, unless they're like, we're gonna get him. We're just gonna put all our funds into like, hey, for years, we're gonna watch him until like, he must be okay. Do you feel like that the federal government has a thing out for artists, rappers, people of influence, of even our color or just whatever? You feel like when they're put on, they're bloodhounds, basically.
Right. It's
I'm speaking my.
No, it's I want to say it's one of those situations, man, where everybody got a type.
I feel.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't have to say anything more than that.
Yeah,
and the fact that you can just look and see what they type is.
Yeah. Do you feel it's because rappers now, and again, we look at like BG is out, we look at YSL trial where they're trying to put lyrics against them. Chicago is known for drill rap. Because they put this music out there that influences the masses, do you feel like that always will put a target on a rapper's back who chooses to rap about violence and getting away and walking them down and murder, shoot, kill, bang? Do you feel like that's always going to put a target on their back to get watched, surveillanced? Just they're asking for it, basically.
Ask NWA in the 80s.
Yeah. I wonder how many times they got pulled over. How many police were at their shows?
Come on, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
man.
You know what I'm saying? If you ever out there speaking truth to power or talking about or describing your communities that aren't like everyone else's communities, or speaking about our communities in a sense of what's going on, then yeah, people are going to be looking at you because they're going to want to know why. How do you know this? How do you know at 6 a.m,
Right,
police at your door? You know what I'm saying? How do you know this?
And if in their lyrics they say, this was my partner's story, this is my story. I know from experience, like if that's in the song, like, okay, wait a minute now. We got some open cases in this area that ain't nobody solved yet. I mean, it's just funny because it's like you seem like you invite, like, yeah, I want you to look at that situation that happened at that 7-Eleven at 3 a.m. where,
brother, we talked about it.
Yeah.
We talked about the fact that law enforcement is looking, it's like, okay, that sounds like this. Oh, we didn't tell people that it was a shotgun. We just said they were shot. Okay, what else you got? So you came in through the window. We were wondering how you got in there because both doors were locked from the inside. And so they just started going through, well, thank you, sir. thank you for telling on yourself, and thank you for assisting us because we're about to take this rap lyric, this crime scene, and we're about to make a Reese's Pieces. Because this chocolate and this peanut butter is going to be delicious sweetness and sending you to jail.
See, the crazy part of that is, if you read any of these guys' rap lyrics to a jury, of course, it's like let's just read the whole song. And then like, this is going to paint a picture of a person where like, you should not be able to use the lyrics though against a person, but to be able to say, here's what kind of person this is. Listen to these lyrics. What he'll do to a woman after the club and then see his op and then bam. And then that kind of paints a picture for the jury to look at a man a certain way. Like, wow, is that what kind of monster this is?
Man.
And it could just be for the form of entertainment.
Brother, we talked about that.
Yeah, I know we did. I keep bringing it back up.
Yeah, we talked about country music lyrics, right? You know, people running trucks through trailer homes and running over dudes who are sleeping with their ex-wife, right?
It doesn't work in your alimony case.
No. And so, you know, they don't use their lyrics. They don't use lyrics by rock stars talking about getting high or using illicit drugs.
Yeah.
They're not drug busting them every day and using their lyrics to say, oh, see, he's on LSD all the time.
Mm.
You know, he says it right here.
Yeah, right.
You know, they don't do that, but you know, because of the violence sometimes associated with these rap lyrics.
Mm.
And man, another PSA. Stop rapping about gang activity or murders or robberies that you were not a part of and just taking what you've heard from off the streets and making a song about it. Because you're putting yourself in view of law enforcement or whoever was robbed or whoever was killed for something to happen to you.
No, facts.
Leave that alone, man.
Thank you for that PSA. I seen a rapper rap about scamming Chase. I'm like, and then he got arrested for scamming Chase. I was like, well, I mean, that wasn't hard. If that's what you want, I mean, it was a good song. But man, you just gave instructions of exactly how he was trying to teach other people how to do it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you could do that. But like you said, a lot of people live through other people's truths, and they want to tell another person's story. And I think that was almost, you got a thumbs up for that. Like, man, that sounds like, you know, a day in the life of Chicago, let's say. And it sometimes is an open crime that it might lead to something else. So again, you know, I'm not for gangster rap in general. So, you know, but to each his own. I want to ask you, Larry, as far as with this Durk thing, you just mentioned, of course, him getting a key to the city.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned him getting a Grammy with J. Cole.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the mayor of that portion of the city immediately asked for the key back. She made a statement that, you know, I know everyone's innocent until proven guilty and all that, but, you know, based on just what this is from a PR standpoint, yeah, we want that key back because I don't, you know, you don't need it anyway. I mean, what are your thoughts on that as far as just, you know, again, that kind of makes you see that it almost adds on to the guilt that they're trying to seek, because I'm sure that mayor don't have the information that the feds have. But what's your take on that?
Man, we're talking about an award.
We're talking about it.
We're not talking about anything that you necessarily earned or that you are due. You know, that's not your award. That award was given because you put out a certain public persona. And once that persona is ruined or something happens to the contrary, then they have a right to come back and say, okay, you know what? You fooled me, but I need that back. I need that back. I mean, if you really want to talk about, what did they do? They took, what's my guy's name? The running back. They took his Heisman.
They took his Heisman?
Because he was, was it Reggie Bush? Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
They gave it back though.
It's almost like an endorsement deal. Like, hey, just because something's alleged, hey man, it's just business.
Right.
You can't be the face of the company because of even if you did a crime, it's just we just don't want you as a face. So it's more so saying we're going to take that back. Not saying you're guilty.
Right.
We're just saying we don't want to be part of the conversation around why we gave it to you a week ago.
And we don't want that to constantly be the story.
Correct.
Right? Because if they take it back, then the story isn't really the man of the year or key of the city recipient. You're not saying that anymore because they no longer are that recipient.
Yeah.
So now it's just them in that case.
Correct. Yeah. Take away titles, like Game of Thrones, strip you of titles and whatever.
But I am using it in his criminal defense.
Right. The goal is to win. Yeah. Whoever, both sides, it's a chess match. The goal is to win. So yes. With that being said, just real quick for Durk, what is your take on his chances? Should he have at least gotten a bond? I think he just went to go to a bond hearing when he got to LA. I think he's on a no bond, I believe. I'm not mistaken. I probably have to check. But if he has no bond, what are your thoughts as far as his chances? Should he at least have a bond? I know we're just dealing with the Diddy situation with no bond.
Well, same rationale behind the Diddy situation. What did I say in that? I said because he left and showed that, and he has the means, they were going to no bond him. And sure enough, they no bonded him. Right? Yeah. And then the judge is like, okay, we're going to make this trial quick. And so now the pressure's on the prosecution because they have to get ready to try this case, because if they're not ready to try this case, then the defense is going to come back and say, we need a bond.
Do you feel the federal government even arrests someone without being ready to try a case? Like,
of course.
You think they jump the gun and say, let's just get them?
Man.
But what's the murder? If it's a murder for hire, the murder already happened. That's why I'm wondering why they didn't go RICO or anything of that nature, because you wait 2 years to do a murder for hire based on the stuff you have.
You didn't have enough.
Okay.
You didn't have enough.
Yeah.
And that could be part of the problem. When were these alleged wires done? Were they done the murder happened in 2022. Were the wires done in 2023?
Yeah. Were
the wires done in early 2024? When were these wires allegedly done?
Yeah, I think that's what gives it that, because sometimes if something happens, a murder for hire, and like, hey, I'm gonna pay you, but we gotta let things die down, and you wait, 19 months, 24 months. All right, now I'm gonna slide some money to you for some other reason.
But we're talking about the wire.
Yeah.
When did that take place? Did it happen in 2022? I know I read some things that said that the alleged person was arrested and released during that time period. Then at that point, I'm kind of like you. Why wasn't an arrest made before it happened? But if this wire happened in 2023, 2024, man, I forget what the people do with their fingers and sniffing and all that other stuff. But, I could say that Durk might have been set up and basically set up to admit to a crime that he wasn't involved in. And I get that they have that text message, but it was real weird in the indictment that they hung their hat on a statement saying, don't use my name.
Yeah. I thought more would come out of it.
Yeah, don't use me, don't associate me with these flights. And I'm like,
yeah, if there is a wire, if they have recordings, I think it's more so we're gonna get them on something else on top of this. We just gotta grab them and get them in. So
we'll see.
We'll see. Again, innocent to proven guilty, and like you said, it might be guilty to proven innocent in some situations.
It's a lot happening in Florida right now.
It's a lot happening in Florida.
Meech getting released.
Yes, I want to speak to you on Meech's release. Again, I just watched the Menendez brothers movie to where these guys killed their parents. They were sentenced to life in prison, and now because of a Netflix movie, or maybe before, maybe the Netflix movie was inspired by the movement, but Kim Kardashian got involved, and now they've been granted a revisit of their sentencing, which could possibly free them. Big Meech was convicted to 30 years. Something happened recently in which technically a few years before his technical time frame to get paroled, they offered, hey, we're going to release you. How does that work in regards to parole, supervised release? How does that work as far as from the person on the level of Big Meech? Do they normally say, hey, you passed, because again, in Florida, he's passed 80% of his time and he's been a good guy in prison.
Has he? I thought he's only been in there 14 years.
I want to say he's been in there 20. I like to lean on Google a lot. Let me ask.
Because I thought he was arrested. I thought he was sentenced in 2008.
I want to say yes.
And so if he was sentenced in 2008, we're looking at roughly around 14 years.
Okay. So
16, because in 4 years, he would have been in there 20.
Okay, yeah, you're right. 2008, he was sentenced to 30 years. Yeah, so wait a minute. So how do you think that works? Like, what do you think? Because a lot of people
he passed the halfway point. He passed the halfway point, and his actions and conduct in prison, good behavior. He's shown the guards, the warden, and others that he's reformed. He might have done and availed himself to a psychological evaluation and to show that he has changed. And so there's lots of things that a lawyer would potentially set up. And to be honest with you, man, it could be money.
What do you mean?
It could be money.
Like what? Like a book movie or a movie deal or something? What we talking?
I mean, what's the movie out about him now?
A BMF, whole show.
Right. And so
now, when you say money, you mean like what? Like from the prison side of things, for money for Meech?
Why did Tupac get out?
He was bonded out by Suge Knight. But you're right, how did he get a bond? But he spent $1 million. Everyone has a bond. I mean, Tupac had a bond.
Listen what I'm saying, though. If there's enough money and value in Meech being released, there could be both political and financial pressure to get him out of jail. I mean, it could be.
Do you feel, I know we talked about it earlier, but
don't start any straight crazy conspiracy. That is a very...
There's cooperation work to get out early.
Yeah, right. It's very possible that, an HBO or a Netflix or one of these companies could say, okay, you know what? Send this lawyer in, have him evaluate the situation. Let's take a look at it and let's set it up. Let's set it up to see if we can get him released. And upon his release, he signs a deal with us.
That's actually amazing. That's actually amazing. People should be pitching to Netflix while they're incarcerated. I'm just saying, hey, everyone has a story. He got a snitch jacket early on by the blogs and the media for getting out early. Why do you feel that stigma is on, like, especially on the Black community? I don't hear this on the other side, to where, he's out early, he's snitching. They don't get me. He telling on the Mockingbird outside on the windows, tapping too hard. Like, what is that you feel about the snitch jacket get thrown out for anyone who's supposed to get 30 and get out and have that? Like,
man, the community really have to stop that. We really do, right? I mean, we tell kids that make straight A's that they're not really from the community and they're not tough, or, they selling out. How are you selling out because you actually do your homework? How are you selling out because you're actually trying to make something of your life?
That's crazy.
How are you selling out because you show up to work on time? I literally heard that before.
Yeah.
You're just trying to appease those, not to me, but you're just trying to appease those people because you're showing up to work on time. You ain't 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes late like me. I'm showing them. I'm sticking it to the man and the woman. You know? No. Cut that out. That man could have honestly gone in there and had a plan. Look, I got 30. The goal is to try to get out in 15. I'm finna avail myself to psychological evaluations. I'm finna help other inmates. I'm finna get my GED. I'm finna get a college degree. I'm about to do this. I'm about to set up mentor programs in jail. I'm about to work with the recently incarcerated programs to keep prisoners from coming back in, stopping the rotating doors and people coming back in. There's lots of things and lots of reasons why someone could have got out other than snitching. But we always want to think the worst, right?
Yeah.
Man, you cheated, man. You ain't smart enough to get no A in algebra. How you get an A? I went home and studied.
Right. I knew the rules of how to get an A, and I did that.
Exactly. So, miss me with that, man.
Can you tell the people how a halfway house works? What is, for those who don't know what that means when you're out on a situation where you're in a halfway house? Like, how does that look? What are the rules? Things of that nature. For those that don't know.
I always crack myself up, man, because I had these thoughts in my head. What's the show? What's Tyler Perry's show?
He has a few.
No, with the Eden. The men of Eden or whatever.
Yes. I forget the name of it. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Right. When old boy was in the halfway house, pretty much like that, man. You in a halfway house, basically, it's a slow reintroduction of someone back into mainstream society. They want to cut you loose, but maybe you've been away for so long, they just can't throw you out there. You got to remember, man, think about it. 16 years ago, 2008, there was no social media.
Yeah. I think Facebook was about to be introduced to the world.
Right. And so you look at all the things that are going on now, and to come out, it's people who've gone into jail where they had phones on the wall, and pay phones were the main form of phones. They come out and people walking around with phones. That's a mental shock.
They come out to the Tesla robot. That's
right. But come on, man.
What's going on? Yeah, what's going on with the Tesla robot?
Exactly. Exactly. If you've been hurt by one, please call me.
He started class actions.
Yeah, if you've been hurt by a Tesla robot, if a Tesla robot has acted like I am robot on you, call me.
Yeah.
Call me.
I know some lawyers are waiting for that.
Yeah.
They're waiting for that thing to go berserk. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. If you told your robot to clean the kitchen and your robot sounded like James Evans and cussed you out and threw something at you, call me.
Come on now.
Exactly. Call me, man.
So yeah, no, you got to be reintroduced to the world. But what does that look like as far as just, I think they have only like day plans. They could go to work, come back to the halfway house.
It just depends.
Okay.
It really just depends, right? You have some where you're allowed, or they take you to classes and you go through the different requirements that you need in order to complete to be fully reintroduced into society. And so they want to just keep an eye on you for a while and figure out your movements. And, it's been 16 years. Everybody that he loved and knew in his community or where he was at that point may not necessarily be there. So where are you going to drop this man off to? And so this is kind of an opportunity for him to get reintroduced into mainstream society, but at the same time, set himself up to where he fits in. Where do I fit in? Right? Where do I live? How do I see my family? Where am I going to work? All those things play a role in a halfway house. So it's not a bad thing. It's something that is utilized to help people come in so that they don't go out and automatically violate. Just think about it. I get out of jail. And they tell me all the things I shouldn't do. Hey man, you can't be around any other felons. You can't be around people with charges. You can't be around any gang members. And the only thing I know are those individuals that do those things. And next thing you know, I go to the neighborhood. My boys see me on the corner. They buy me something to drink. I'm out there talking with them. We catching up. Police roll up because somebody's carrying. Somebody got a gun. Somebody has this. And next thing you know, I'm locked up again.
So how does that work if you're talking with the boys, just for a second, stop by, police pull up for just, hey, what you guys doing? And see somebody carrying, you didn't know. And like you just said, for that reason alone, you're violating. So how slippery is that slope? I mean, how many people you see kind of just have to go back because of something so minuscule like, yeah, man, you weren't supposed to be in that car with that guy. I know he got some gas and drove off and, police pulled him over. I know you just got some, stuff at the car, at the store and just walked in. And it's such a slippery slope to fall back into. Like, it's best just for people like Meech just to stay in the house and don't be around nobody.
Meech needs to do what a lot of professional athletes need to do. They need to have a caretaker. They need to have someone that says, okay, you, and you, y'all got to go.
Yes.
You, and you, let me check you out. All right, you good. You good. Come on in. And keep an eye on what's happening, right? If my man has a problem drinking and he gets violent or, angry when he drinks and you got someone who's bringing over his favorite drink, hey, partner, I'm going to warn you this once. If I see him with a drink and you were anywhere near him that day, you will never see him again.
Yeah.
And if I see you, you and I got problems.
Sounds like a good woman. He might.
Or a good homeboy.
Or a good homeboy. Yeah, we'll see.
Or a good homeboy. You know what I'm saying? So he needs, the crazy thing, I think I told you this. I've done that for my clients.
There you go.
I've sat off to the side, let them do what they're going to do, male and female, right? And follow them on their social media. I've called clients at 3 a.m. because I got an alert on my phone. And it's like, hey, baby girl, we got court on Monday. You're out of state, dancing at a table on a strip club, drinking. And we got a DWI to take care of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't turn up, turn it off.
Yeah, right. Say, get off that table.
Right? And so, that's, people need individuals in their life who are not just yes people, who can sit back and not necessarily want to be seen, not necessarily want the clout.
Yeah. Can Meech do interviews and speak on past crimes that he got found guilty of? That's the question.
Hey, man, look. He can talk about them in a sense of remorse. Okay. Right? He can write a book.
Right.
He's already been charged. He served the time for it. Anything that they've indicted him for, he can go ahead and use. Now, he probably don't want to tell any news stories.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
So,
right.
They charged him with this X, Y, and Z. And as long as something is not necessarily criminally related, like he could talk about the first time they made $1 million selling drugs and what they did. Man, we went to the Shake 'em Up Shack and, we spent X amount of dollars and I met Doreen, Lisa, Tanika, Rhonda, and we bought, we bought what we bought, drinks. I bought a car and we had a wonderful 2 or 3 days, right? He could talk about stuff like that. He could talk about the crimes, like I said, that were in that time period and used against him and tell that story, but do it in a way in such that it's for public interest or remorse.
Okay. Yeah, so he can't talk about meeting Jorge at the border and getting that pack and then we turned up and boy, we just did some people wrong with that. Oh, okay. That's
he
fair game.
He potentially can if he was charged with that.
Okay.
If Jorge was included in the indictments, but chances are my man ain't gonna really want to talk about nobody else but himself.
Yeah, chances are, man.
Hence, he's not snitching.
Yeah, there you go. Well, definitely want to touch base on Meech, man. Prayers go out to him. I hope he comes to sit on the couch or at least do some type of virtual phone call or something with us. Whoever grabs that first interview, congrats to them. And most likely, if it's us, congrats to us. So shout out Meech, man. Definitely a fan of Big BMF. His son is doing a great job playing himself. Do you feel like Big Meech should go and get on hey, season 3, 4, whatever season we're on?
Brother, if you don't think that boy gonna make a guest appearance, or have a character, like he might play his uncle.
Yeah,
right. He might play his uncle, and we don't know. I don't know. Somebody, you guys might know. I don't know. Was his daddy involved in his life, and at what period? He was. What?
He was. Yeah, no, he very much was.
Yeah, he could very well. He could very. Yeah. Well, they can't play his daddy because they've already casted his dad. But he could very well play his uncle.
He could play his uncle, man. Again, that's legitimate work.
But it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Look, man. My predictions for Mr. Meech is that he's going to be very successful.
Oh yeah.
The culture loves him.
Yeah.
And he is going to be taken care of. The thing is, and I think his son is really going to be able to help him out with that. Because he seems like a good kid who has his head on straight, who I haven't really heard too much about him.
Yeah.
Right?
But he's a working actor now. And
right. But he could be like, hey, Dad, this is how you move.
It could be. It could be. But with that being said, also his dad could be like, son, this is how you move. Now let's get to this real bag. Because when you have the mentality to make, let's say, a drug dealer's mentality, that's a hustler's mentality. And nothing against his son or anything like that. I know he went to acting class and got on the show, but once a hustler, always technically a hustler. And technically, he might be able to get out and really see the money that he had back then now. With the way Hollywood may throw money around, like you said, Netflix, who won't it? Who won't it?
My money is on he's not going to do anything that will jeopardize his son. Now, if there's a movie that, maybe he takes classes, that they can play a father and son duo, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they play a sports movie or something of that nature. So there's, like I said, the opportunities for him are endless. The real question is, can he keep the environment that had him sent away from him?
There you go. So Larry, lastly, I want to speak to you on congratulations on having a class full of inspiring lawyers and sitting down with Woody. I know the full interview is now out. I watched it. Great interaction between both of you guys. I love the conversation of who he's voting for, and I love all that as far as just being able to speak to Woody. But I want to speak on, of course, the YSL case in general, and just get your thoughts on the fact that I believe we're on over, I think we just passed day 200 or something on this one.
We're not at 20 years?
Yeah.
It's like
right. It seems like it's season 5 or something. I don't know what's going on anymore. I was tuned in like day to day, but then even I got kind of exhausted from just the day to day. What they said, this is the longest criminal case trial proceeding in Atlanta or that county's history. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you feel like that's no preparation, or just they knew it was going to take this long because that's the kind of case this was, that to build up to something?
When I was a prosecutor, one of the best defense attorneys that I came across taught me a valuable lesson. Same lesson that any of you guys play dominoes. No. Study long, study wrong. And I think what has happened is there have been so many mistakes made that they're trying a trial within a trial, right? And I have someone in this, I'm not gonna say their names, but I got somebody in this room who I'm gonna look for a nod that it honestly looks like they're trying a case. They messed up. And then they're bringing another witness in and retrying it differently and doing better at it. And so it's like they're AI, like they're adapting as they go along. But, you know, you're going to lose the jury because eventually they're going to pick up on, you ask someone, is red blue? And they told you it's purple. They were technically right and you were confused and you kept asking them, is red blue? And they kept telling you it was purple till the jury got upset. And then the next time they asked the question, they said, okay, are these colors either red? Is this couch either red or blue? Oh, it's blue. They got it right this time.
I see what you mean.
Right? And so they're doing that as they go along. But the whole time, they're like, yeah, you kind of got them, but do you really know what you're doing? And if you don't know what you're doing with this trial, how do I know you knew what you were doing when you arrested these men?
Right.
And does that create enough reasonable doubt for me to say, okay, you know what? Y'all screwed up so bad, everybody go home.
Yeah. Real quick, before I talk about mistrials, can attorneys sub another attorney in? Like, hey, someone not even on the case. Can someone like day 89 I'm gonna just jump in, on the whether on defense, but more so speak on the prosecution side. Like, hey, I kind of messed that up, man. Let me jump in and let me take over. I see where you're going wrong with this witness.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, I'm curious why no one just jumps in whenever things are kind of going left, or you feel like attorneys have pride enough to say, no, I got it. Got him where I want him.
Visually,
it looks crazy.
No. It doesn't necessarily look crazy, but I'm gonna get in trouble for this one.
Oh.
Who were the two people who mainly tried this case?
So far I've seen two black women. I forget their name. Yes, two black women,
yes. Right? Who are you gonna have and come in and replace the two most senior black women in the office? If they're the highest ranking black women in the office, who else is going to replace them? And what are the optics of that?
It'll start its own story.
Exactly. Exactly. You're going to have Tom and Antoine come in and replace these two women?
Oof.
Brother.
Yeah.
No. You rolled the dice, man. You pretty much got what you got. And because the mistakes that have been made in some cases have been so egregious, it's just bad optics at this point. And so, I've stepped in hearings. Hell, I did this week.
Yeah, because I look at it more so like and again, women are some of the best lawyers. But one of the
very much so. Yeah. I like them far more than I like men.
Yeah,
on the record, and I say it all the time.
On the record, during the length of this case, one of them could have got pregnant at the beginning of the case and have to take a maternity leave while the case is going on. Like, how does that work? Like, if this case is so long, I didn't have a baby.
So
trying this case,
so as someone who does employment law, I'm going to say anyone who has been removed for a case because they had a child or are pregnant, please call my office. Please, if you've been discriminated against because you have the ability to carry life, call me and get your check.
Wait, can they halt the trial though? Can they say we're going to recess for 3 months?
So seriously, man, that's really not a problem. That's really not a problem.
Okay.
Because as lawyers, number one, it shouldn't have gone this long, but I get your point. It's gone on so long that someone who may have been only 6 months pregnant is now at the point where they're about to give birth.
All right.
And so, so y'all take it easy on them.
I'm just throwing to see what's sticking.
It wasn't that bad of a question. But typically, even if you were a man, right? Let's say I'm older.
Yeah.
right? Let's say I'm trying a case and I have a health condition come in.
Right.
Just like a play, you have an understudy.
Yeah.
So there's another lawyer in the room when they go back to the war room and they discuss the case and they're working on the case. There are probably 2 or 3 lawyers who are working with them who understand the direction in which they're going that could step in if something happens.
Right. Yeah, and that's like the unforeseen, because anything could happen. A pregnancy, of course, could be foreseen.
That could happen to a man or a woman. And so if you have been discriminated because you can carry life, call 866-LT for me.
Let's go. What's the longest case you've heard of?
Man, you had cases that last a couple of months, but this one is ridiculous. Godly, hold on. It was one that I'm trying to think. Was there one that went on almost a year?
I'm sure.
But usually, yeah, but never a murder case.
Yeah.
Never a murder case. That's why
civil cases, they could be, boom, boom, bam, or even class action lawsuits could take
3 to 4 months. Because you got to fly people in, you got to potentially fly people in, corporate representatives, CEOs, vice presidents, former employees. There are plenty of people that you can bring in or have to bring in when you do that type of litigation, especially civil litigation. And so those cases can take a while. You got to bring in experts. Everybody has 5 to 10 experts. You got an expert to talk about, how the thing was made. You have an expert to talk about how it affected or how it injured individuals. You have someone come in and talk about the chemical makeup of the products. Was it done right? Was it up to standard? Did it meet the codes? Did it follow all the protocols that the government has in place? Was it governmentally approved? And so you have all those things to take place to make those civil trials last a little bit longer. But for murder trials, nah, man. Nah, all you really need is he shot him. We got evidence. Did he shoot him? Did he tell you he shot him? Yes. Did you see he shot him? Yes. Okay, go sit down. But back to the guy, study wrong, study long, man. Study long, study wrong.
Let me ask you, how many witnesses, do you feel is excessive in the case? Just throwing off the top of the head, hey, we have X amount of witnesses gonna come and speak on this. To you, what's excessive?
That's hard to say. It really is hard to say. It's hard. I mean,
is 50 normal?
Man, you can have that many lined up. Mm-hmm. You can have that many lined up. Let's think about the apartment complex that fell down let's think about that or the shooting that took place in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
There were thousands of people downstairs.
Correct.
And so you might have 20 of those. You might have 10 law enforcement officers, right? You might have 5 people who were EMS who took care of the injured. And so you might have 10 hotel staff members talk about what took place. And so it could very well last. You could very well have many or very few witnesses.
Yeah. And for the history, it says the longest criminal trial was 919 days back in 1987 to 1990. So that's a long time.
What was that?
That was for a preschool assault. It was essay that was going on at a daycare, McMartin preschool trial. I don't know how that. Yeah, I might have to. That might be his own documentary. With that being said, again, congratulations to you and Woody. Where can they find that interview that you and Woody did? I want you to make sure I want them to go watch this thing because that was amazing. Where was that at? So
they can start off by going to Instagram at Larry Taylor II. They can find us on YouTube at Tailor Made Conversations. But more importantly, go to tailormadelaw.com and you'll see all our social media handles. And we're creating a platform that will provide both you and young lawyers with resources to assist you if you have a case or if you want to improve your practice or grow your practice, we're providing resources. Because the thing is, one of the things that really bothered me when I started my legal career is I did not have anyone who really helped me. I didn't. You know, people look at me and they say, I didn't walk into nothing. Everything, every case, every dollar, everything that has been built with these two hands and this mind. And so I want to make sure I provide people with an opportunity to assist them in that regard. And then at the same time, you know, I want to make sure that people in communities like ours or anyone can find lawyers that can address their situation that are real lawyers, right? You know, several years ago, there was a situation where people were hiring this guy. He wasn't even a lawyer. And like I said before, here in Dallas, he was practicing in JP courts and he wasn't a lawyer. But like I said before, all
Better
lawyers...
call Saul or...
Yeah, well, better call Larry. Call LT. 866-LT for me. But tailormadelaw.com. But you want to make sure that the lawyers that you choose have your best interests and will fight. And that's one of the things that I think I have the opportunity to really get a sense of, because I travel the country and meet with hundreds of lawyers a year, right? And I really get to dig down into their practices and talk to them about their cases and what they do and observe them. And so when I refer a case to an attorney, I know that they're worth their chops. I don't do family law, right? You asked me about that. I referred a person to a family lawyer. He called me up, said, man, you ain't never got to worry about your air condition ever again in life. This person did what they needed to do. I got my kid and so forth and so on. So I want to make sure that I introduce people into other real life lawyers.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take that part and probably snap on the end, because I was just really asking to see where can we find a video of. But
tailormadelaw.com. You go there, you find all the social media, you'll find a link to the video there, and it'll take you to TaylorMade Conversations.
And on that video, you had asked Woody, what do you like about an attorney? What gravitates you towards a certain attorney or lawyer? And he said one word. He just said choice. Did you pick up on that right when he said that, as far as what he meant by saying choice? Trust. I'm sorry. I said choice. Gee, I heard it all wrong. Trust. Yes. He had made mention that he tries to play dumb just to see what a person may do, feed them wrong information just to see what they do with it. And he gave an example of it. But what were your thoughts on that, as far as just for him and being in his situation with this case? I mean, this case is still active, where he's like, I just want to be able to trust my lawyer.
That's what I like to do, man.
Yeah.
You know, he is who he is. And his change on life is refreshing. He is, when I look at him, man, I look at our community. We don't necessarily always start off the greatest. We don't always make the right decisions. But so many of us feel that we can't come out of those things. If I danced when I was 18 till I was 25, can I be a mother at 26 and 27? You know, can I be the PTA president? The answer is yes. If I sold dope, if I went to jail, if I did all these things that society says that people who look like me in communities like mine do, if I did those things, can I be something more?
All right.
When I told him, don't let your moment stop your movement, I wasn't just talking to him. I was saying the words that I said to myself.
That's real.
What I did today, man, or what I did yesterday does not necessarily define my tomorrow.
Hey, these is facts.
And I want to see so much more. You know, and not to get nostalgic, but hell, man, Wakanda was not just a movie for me.
Yeah.
Wakanda was Atlanta at its best.
Correct. A vision.
Harlem at its best. Houston at its best. What Oklahoma City could be. What Tulsa could be.
Mm-hmm.
What Mississippi could be.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the reasons why I am so drawn to this young man, because what he's been able to do and his determination not to be what he was and not let anybody drag him back, man, kudos to that brother.
There you go. There you go. No, without question. Powerful words, because yes, a lot of people do struggle with escaping their past and, you know, having their past define them. And like you said, your past, don't let it define your tomorrow. Let me ask you though, because, you know, he did create, and it's funny, I've been watching some other trials prior to this YSL case where I don't recall has been used. But he used it so masterfully that I thought that was a tactic for anyone who's facing fire or has to go technically, quote unquote, testify against their, you know, someone that they still have some relevance towards. The next person came up, and I forget his name, Boom Tunk or Unk Boom, or I forget his name, and I apologize for that. But he attempted to try to use the same thing, the I don't recall method, and they sent him back to prison for not cooperating, as he wrote that he would, to talk about these certain points about this case and to utilize I don't recall. Would you... I'm trying to see why that wasn't a good strategy, because, you know, if you don't recall, you don't recall. You know, if I said something 3 years ago when y'all first asked me about these things and it took 3 years to get this case started, if I have short-term memory lapse, I mean, bring in a doctor. But I don't recall right now at this moment. You got to bring in somebody to study me, I guess.
I wish I could refer him to someone who I know down there, but they already have one of the co-defendants. But my take on that is, in the difference, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, man, because I don't know for 100%. But I think Woody's situation was he had already been to federal prison for the gun.
Yeah, that's correct.
So his recall was not necessarily predicated on a plea deal that he did or had with the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Mr. Tunk had made previous statements and signed off on those statements that he said he didn't recall with those, and they would basically, if they introduced it and said, "Is this your signature?" Yes. Did you put your signature here? Read through this. Is this the statement that you signed 10 years ago and agreed that everything in your statement was true? If he said, "I don't recall," now you have a perjury situation, and you have a situation in which a judge could take that into account and use it against them. And so Georgia has different laws than we have, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100%. I've read through them, and their plea deals as far as testifying, but there's some nuances that could have tripped him up based on the type of agreement that he had.
Mm. Yeah, no, seeing the judge make the statement in which she stated, that you would not make a mockery of this court. Basically, as he was, I don't want to say he was attempting to do, but the judge saw this as, we will not play when you take that oath. We don't play with that. How, and this is for someone who's never been to court, never put their hand on that Bible to have to testify. How important, because the judge made me remember how important that oath is when you don't play with that right hand on the Bible. So she enforced the rule, sent him straight to jail before he could even go home and say bye to his kids or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
how important is that oath? And who takes that oath important? Is it just the judge? Is it who is responsible for that oath and if it's broken?
I want to ask for a head nod once again to confirm. But man, it's so selective what judges do in holding somebody responsible. I've tried cases with my partner in crime, and we knew witnesses were up there lying. And we had evidence to the contrary of what they said to show that they were lying and perjured themselves. And judges just basically is like, you won, it didn't matter. They could tell they was lying. No. They need to go into to go to jail. I was going to say Hooskow. I wanted to be funny and use Hooskow, but I couldn't find it. But now I found it. They should have been sent to the Hooskow for lying, and they weren't. And so it just depends, man, on how they choose to do it. And I'm not even sure if the judge didn't do it because now she's kind of feeling sorry for the state.
Yeah, I'm curious because, you don't want to make a mockery because the judge technically works for the state, works with the state. I don't know. I would assume from the aspect the judge is employed, of course, by the courts, but is with the state. That's just my assumption. I don't know. But to see this thing go to get made a mockery of the state, like no matter which lawyer's up there, which attorney's up there, to see the mockery just kind of play out of where maybe the attorney's having a bad day. Like, damn, let me throw him something to just show that we don't want this going on. Because I think she set a precedence because, again, with what Woody did, I felt going forward, I don't recall is the new, man, this the get out of jail free card. Or this is the, hey, I'm going to show up, put my hand on it and just, I don't recall everything and go and take me home. And good luck on your case. But she showed that that's not the case.
It just depends on the situation and how they were doing it. If he, like I said before, if he's saying he doesn't recall, that's his signature on his statement. If he's saying he doesn't recall, that's a problem. That's when you start really getting into issues of, okay, are you gaming the system, sir?
Yeah. Because
that's your signature.
Yeah.
And this is the statement that you signed. Now, do you remember every detail in it? I don't need you to. I just need you to remember that you signed this document. And then from there, I can introduce this document and let the jury read what you had to say.
Yeah, I seen some I don't recalls getting thrown out before the question was even asked or finished being asked. And I'm like, to even prep yourself to say, I hear what you're about to go into, knowing like they probably might know the answer and to just have that on their tongue. Like, I don't recall. Like, I didn't even finish asking the question. Okay, well, go ahead and finish. Okay, I don't recall again. I'm like, it almost looked game-ish. Like,
well, in the situation, man, you had some of these guys, like I said, it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? It's been 10 years. So, Joker, I come to you and say, to 10 years ago, did you see Miss Johnson working at the McDonald's window off of Lemon Avenue? You like, I don't recall. Well, you told the police 10 years ago that was the woman who was at the McDonald's window. So is that the woman at the McDonald's window? I honestly, at this point, don't recall.
So then you question, again, it should be like a good lawyer should have maybe 2 or 3 questions follow up to get a valid answer. Like, was it a woman there? I don't recall. Was it human being staying at the window? Can I get a yes out of you?
No, that's not what you want to do.
Because I see so many I don't recall to where you don't even get a yes or no anymore.
What you want is to get in evidence that will tell your story for you.
All right. Can that look bad if somebody that you called a witness that just doesn't know anything?
That's why I said earlier, we went through this before. You don't let it get that far. You don't let it get that far. Once it gets to be a game, right? You have some judges who will jump right in and say, You say, I don't recall one more time, I'm gonna throw you in the back and hope that you remember. Matter of fact, I think you sent me a video of a case in which a judge, it was a civil case.
Yeah.
Was it Beezy's?
Yes, it was. I sent you the Beezy's, yes.
And the judge at that point got aggravated with the witness or the attorney with the line of questioning.
Correct.
And interceded. And so you have to, as an attorney, you have to be really careful. Look, man, you got to know your audience.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're dealing with. You can't come in on a grass field and it's been raining for the last 10 days and say, I'm finna run or throw the ball, right? At this point, it's a mud pit. You got to figure out how you're going to maneuver within that. You have to know your environment. You have to know who you're dealing with. Who's your judge? Is this a no-nonsense judge? If it is, okay, I'm finna set you up. I'm going to ask a few questions that are very simple. Yes, no. And as soon as you get to the point where the judge sees that you're playing, I'm going to let the judge take care of you. I'm going to let the judge take care of you. If I got a judge who allows leeway, then I'm going to ask, I'm finna throw a couple of curveballs, right? I'm finna throw a couple of balls that are just outside, maybe just outside the line, but depending on your answer, you can bring it back in for me, right? And so, you know, it just depends on your environment. A good lawyer studies the environment that they're in. One of the things that I do is I'll go sit in, well, I can't tell all my secrets, but anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah, let me just ask you lastly before we get out of here, if it was a mistrial for the YSL case, what could cause, what type of things could cause a mistrial? And we've seen a lot of requests for mistrial.
You got 290 days worth of mistrial.
Yeah, like, do you feel like one of them is going to work? Like one of these mistrials is going to work?
I don't think the judge is going to throw this out. I think you're at 8 months and 28 days since you used pregnancy earlier.
Yeah.
That's a baby.
Come on.
That's a baby. And so we're going to go ahead and wait these next 2 days and just have this baby. We're going to have this baby. Now, once the baby here, which is the verdict, if either side doesn't like it, you could take it to the Court of Appeals.
Yeah.
And you can argue it there. And if they think I'm wrong, cool. I'm cool with that. Because chances are I ain't going to have to see this case again. And so if it gets kicked back, another judge is going to have to do it. If they affirm the not guilty on the case, then it's done. And so I doubt if it goes all the way up to the only if it's a guilty do I see it potentially going to whatever Supreme Court, the Georgia Supreme Court. If it's not a guilty, I see, and if it's appealed, I only see it going to the Court of Appeals.
If the judge wanted to wrap this thing up in the next 30 days, not saying just without,
she can do it.
I'm about to say, can she do it without doing it? Just like, hey, let's go to the chambers. Listen, get what, like, how can she do it? Like, I know she can't just say, you got until, Thanksgiving, get this thing done.
Yes, but they can.
Oh, they can? Oh, wow.
Yes, they can. Judge can come back and say, hey, look, we got an 8-hour day. You got 4 hours of direct. You got 4 hours of cross.
Oh.
And I'll give each side 30 minutes to redirect or whatever. And after that, you done with that witness. We're going to keep this moving. You just don't have the leeway to just keep going on as long as you want. Just like, I don't like it because I love voir dire or voir dire, depending on what part of the country you're from. You have some judges who will tell you, you got 30 minutes. Then do we have 30 minutes in the federal court? Or was it longer? Don't remember. All right. And so I think it was like 30 minutes. I was like, Judge, I just get through my good story.
It's hard to argue. Yeah, I'm just...
In 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
I got 80 people in here, right? So how am I going to get through in 30 minutes? Well, you got 30. And then he took like 8 minutes for me and started asking questions on my behalf because he saw where I was going.
Oh, man. So thank you for the information, because these are things I didn't know, that it can actually put a time limit on it. Which, last I have to ask, for this trial, based on what you know, I know you don't follow it day to day, but based on what you know, if you were a juror, which way would you lean based on just the length and just the way the trial has been taking place? Are you leaning more towards guilty? That's just guilty, or are you leaning more towards not guilty? And again, I'm not going off of the actual details, but more so just the length, the things going on in court, the characters involved.
It's a couple of things that affect the jury, right? I don't want to give away too many of my trade secrets, but juries love the person who is the shortest speaker and most succinct and direct. Mm. If you start asking questions multiple times, jury's like, okay, I'm not the lawyer, but he's answered that already, didn't he? And then the third time, they're like, okay, he answered that. I know that. I thought he may have answered it the second time you asked, but now that you ask a third time. And so now they start looking at their watches and they're like, man, I've been here all day. We were supposed to get out of here at 5 and they got to say something. And so now we're going to be here later because you can't get your stuff together. Now, when you get up there, they can't hear nothing that you're talking about because they pissed at you.
Oh, man. Now you're saying something.
They pissed at you. You piss a jury off, you lose the jury.
You're saying the jury could have technically a vendetta against one of the attorneys to say, man, based on, you just wasted my time. I'm going to go against whatever you want. I'm leaning against it because you seem like you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. Exactly. So you've taken away the credibility of your witnesses.
So it really is a dance. It really is chess.
And people could say it's chess.
Well, more chess.
But it's really giving the people the information that they need to make an informed decision. Mm. I could talk about the polymers in this couch. I could talk about, this is not the one with the brass in it, but I could talk about the metals, the wood, where they're from. Are they from America? Are they not? Or I can tell you, I'll sell you the couch. It's valued at $900. I'll give it to you for $200. Sit in it. It's soft, it's plush, and has a 5-year warranty. That hits home more than, oh yes, this is polymers that were created by NASA and it has 5,000 microbubes and all this language and all this stuff and the brass on it was mined.
I don't want to buy it.
I'm like, you're like, oh man, you missed me with that.
Quick and concise.
Exactly.
Could work in a lawyer's favor to either win or lose a case.
It just depends on how much needs to be explained and how much you need that witness to explain to a jury. If you're talking about the flight of a bullet and going through doors and wood and metal and how that works and how it flattens out, a jury needs to hear that. If you're talking about a bullet that ricocheted and hit someone, they need to understand that it's not magic, that there's science in the trajectory and how you got to your conclusion. They need to hear that. But some of this other stuff, they don't need to hear. And some lawyers can't get out their own way.
Well, with that being said, there, and we'll talk about this on a different time because I want to see what happens with this case, which was the Menendez trial. In the Menendez case, I'm gonna probably bring you in on a different day, and I want the fans to expect that to kind of break down just that entire case if they do get out, because there was another element to that case which they threw out in the first trial and didn't allow it in the second trial, which was the sexual abuse that was going on with the boys to possibly have them go into murder. But again, we'll talk about that at a different time. But with that being said, no, you gave your credentials early on, so I do thank you. For this moment, and again, I'm going to still put that in the end just in case they missed it. I do want you to go back to give your shout outs, man. Again, for those that did help you get to this point, again, I don't know if you have got notice outside of these cameras as of yet, but you coming on really helping our platform with the education of law. You're like our own personal law library. So I definitely, again, commend you and appreciate you. Is there any shout outs that you want to give to those that kind of assist you on your journey to this point?
You know what? To the woman who made me blush at the airport, who said, "Are you the lawyer from the blue couch?" I didn't know how to respond.
That's the beginning. That's how it starts.
I didn't know how to respond. I called my wife and was like, I didn't know what to say. Should I have said? I spoke to her.
Yeah,
right?
like what's the protocol?
Right, what's the protocol? Do we take a picture? I mean, I don't know, but I told you that I kind of stepped away and didn't want to be part of this because I've done, I think it was NBC Dateline.
Yeah.
I've been a legal commentator during the Cosby release and several other things, and I stopped doing it because I didn't necessarily want to be in front of the camera. And so my wife gave me the courage and the support in order to come out here and actually do this. And so because of this, I've been able to really help some of your listeners. Now, look, I can't help everybody, man. Look,
boy.
Your dog, collar got caught under the fence at the park. Look, I'm not that lawyer, but if you go to Tailor Made Law, we might be able to find you someone, but I can't help everyone, right? And even though you feel strongly about it, the one thing you're going to get from me is not brutal honesty, but you're going to get an honest, because my man YSL Woody told me, trust. And so I am going to tell you sometimes what you don't want to hear. You don't have a case. You don't. The law is not in your favor. The law does not allow you to bring a case. You can file a lawsuit, you can spend the money, but it's going to be thrown out so quickly. And you're just going to be even more upset because you spent money in order to do that. Oh. And so, man, thank everyone who commented. Thank everyone for some of you guys who cracked the jokes, and we still communicate back and forth on the comments or on my page. And thank you for everyone who is following Larry Taylor II or the Real Life Lawyer or Tailor Made Law, Tailor Made Conversations. I really appreciate that. And for me, it's more so about what I can do for you more so than for me, because I got a great family, right? I got a great family.
There you go.
I have a great life, and I could literally live my life for the rest of my life for me and be happy.
Yeah.
But what good is that? And how do I advocate for a community when I'm not willing to put myself out there to help my community?
That's real. Man, I appreciate that. And just a little tidbit, if somebody does come recognize you, for us, ask them what was their favorite take of yours when it comes to the blue couch. Like, if they watched it and they ask them what was one of their takeaways from it. And if they don't have an answer, just ask them what was one of their favorite interviews. We'll stay in communication. I'm just curious.
You know what they love? Well, they love Jaguar.
Most of them just
they love Jaguar. They like messing with you about your questions.
Oh yeah, man. I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, they love messing with you about that. But I will definitely do that. And for those of you who are watching right now, please make a snippet of this. Joker is actually going to be in front of the camera with me as I interview him on Tailor Made Conversations. Just two brothers sitting down, having a conversation and just having a real conversation.
Yeah.
And so, on our platform, we want to have real conversations with everyday people, up and coming superstars, moms who are just, they're just moms. dads. We want to have conversations with real people, politicians, elected officials, actors, actresses, and just people that I think their story can touch someone in the community and it'll be good for them to hear.
Man, that's real. With that being said, once again, I appreciate you for just offering your time up and again, your knowledge. Again, wisdom is power. I hope people take heed, but we got him back on the couch, so you already know what time it is, man. Larry Taylor, Taylor Made Law, the real life lawyer, back on the blue couch. We have to say it. You are a real life street star. Salute.
Thank you.
Shout out Reallyfe Street Stars, nigga. Move. Hey.